Hi everyone, welcome to day 24 of Vlogmas. Though this is my last day of Vlogmas and my neighbour has decided to knock down his shed today. Please excuse the constant banging in the background. I've tried to wait long enough for him to stop banging, but I'm fearing I'm going to lose the light. So please bear with me. I'm wearing my holly earrings for the occasion, and since it's summer I thought something light and breezy as well. But today is a day for a tag, and so for today's tag I am of course doing Lauren Wade. I'll link her channel down below. She's the original creator. This is her first original tag in a while, and that is the Christmas Carol book tag. Now I could not pass up the opportunity to do a Christmas Carol tag. How beautiful is that? So of course it's a book tag and it's wonderfully Christmassy, and it draws on all the wonderful themes and characters and sayings from the Christmas Carol. And if you don't know what the Christmas Carol is, it's a short novella from Charles Dickens. So if you want to read that for Christmas or Christmas Eve, I highly recommend. So question 1 is Ghost of Christmas Past. What is a childhood favourite? Now I picked out 2 for the occasion, and number 1 is going to be anything by Tamora Pierce, because that was my young teen fantasy. I have covered this book since because it went to rack and ruin because I read it so many times, but I wanted to keep these editions because they're the ones I still had from childhood, but they're absolutely beautiful. It's an amazing, intense, fantastic fantasy world set in Tortle. I started off not with this one, with the first one in the series called Wild Magic, but this is the book that drew me to the series, Wolf Speaker, and then I realized it was book 2. So I read Dane's series, then I went back and read Alana's series, then I read Kel's series, and it just keeps going. I read all the Tortle series and I absolutely adore them. Next I thought we'll get a picture book going even further back in my reading love, and this one is one my mum got for me. It's called Benjamin the Lonely Dragon. And if you can't see down here, it's a little hedgehog, and it's just about a dragon he can't breathe fire. And he gets teased about it all the time, and so he decides to leave and strike out on his own, and he comes across a hedgehog who's lost, because hedgehogs usually don't come out of their burrows in winter time, but he accidentally did, and he can't find his burrow anymore with his family. So they team up to become friends, and it's such a sweet little tale, and it's really beautifully illustrated. I think the illustrations were just absolutely stunning, and they share a love of chocolate honeycomb together. I know, I just loved this book. I had to keep it. You know when you go through all your favourite kids books when you're younger, I definitely had to keep this one. It's one of my absolute favourites. Oh, the author, story and illustrations are by Mark Castle. But how cute is this book? And it's very Christmas appropriate for the Northern Hemisphere, being that it's completely covered in snow. Okay, so let's go on to question 2, and that is Ghost of Christmas Present. A recent book that you think will become one of your all-time favourites. Now, of course, because I cannot pick one, I have picked 4. And thankfully, 3 of the 4, I should say at least, are a series. And that is the Winter Night series by Catherine Arden. Starting off, not with this one, that's set book 2. Starting off with The Bear and the Nightingale. It is Russian folklore, fantasy-esque, set in medieval Russia. History nerd, fantasy combined with amazing fairy tale retelling. Absolutely brilliant. I read the entire series one after the other. Cannot recommend enough. So yeah, this is definitely going to go onto my all-time favourite shelf. Just a standalone favourite for this year is The Mere Wife by Maria Dahvana Headley. What is amazing about this one is how much I was not expecting it to be fantastic. It is a retelling of Beowulf, and it is so ridiculously good. It's a feminist retelling of Beowulf as well. They they subvert all the characters, and it's just ridiculous. It's so telling on current society, current views on, veterans, military veterans, on people, outside of social norms, people within social norms, how they're so strictly confined by others' expectations of them. Oh, it's brilliant. I love it. This book just blew me away, and I want to read it again, but I know it's too soon. It's much too soon. I think I'm going to read it next year, but absolutely wonderful favourite. Question 3 is Ghost of Christmas Future Yet to Come. So what is a book that you're most looking forward to being released? And that is going to be Heartstopper Volume 3. I cannot wait. It's going to be so good. So I've read 1 and 2. They both came out this year actually, because 1 was already done. She just completed 2. That was released a few months ago. And 3 is not too far away, but I am so looking forward to it. It is such a beautiful, wonderful story about 2 people who not only be able to find love, but they find acceptance within their LGBTQ plus community. It's wonderful. Question 4 is Humbug, or basically a book that everyone else loves but you just don't quite get. And I've got 3. So these are basically popular series. I read the first book and I was happy. I didn't feel the need to continue. 1 is Game of Thrones. I know everyone has that dream of reading Game of Thrones ever since the series came out. But I read the first one, and the first one was so compellingly amazing. But once I finished it, I really didn't have the desire to read on. I think just looking at how big the series was, it kind of killed the desire to read on, and the fact that he's not finished it, that would drive me nuts. So I couldn't bring myself to go into that series any further. Same with the Outlander series. I read the first one a few years ago, and I was okay. That was good for me. I was happy with that story. I didn't need to read further. I didn't need to follow the characters any further than that. So yep, that was that one. And also I think Sarah J Maas's Crown of Thorns? Throne of Glass. Sorry. Sarah J Maas's Throne of Glass. That one, yeah, I read the first one, and I know some people say that by the time you get to the third one it's fantastic, but there's just so many other books that I want to read, and I just couldn't persuade myself to get into the series any further. I think I'm still going to give her other series a try, the Court of Thorns and Roses, but yeah, I couldn't really with those series. So yeah, but Humbug on those ones. Question 5 is Bob Cratchit, so an old dependable that you can always recommend. And of course I'm going back to one of my very first book reviews. I will leave a link if you want to watch it. It's quite a few years old by now, but I still love the book. I still recommend the book, and I still get people telling me how much they love the book. And that is The Beast Garden by Kate Forsyth. It's a World War II retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and another, I think it's called The Nightingale. It's it's kind of like a German grim version of Beauty and the Beast. And, oh no, The Singing Lark, that's what it's called. So it's set in World War II. Both of the characters live in Berlin. They're German, so you don't get the traditional Ally or French view. And it's just about the main character. She is actually pro-resistance. She is trying to find ways. She works with communist groups and Jewish groups to try and find ways of getting them out under Nazi control. But of course, she marries quite a powerful Nazi officer. And yes, it's quite interesting to see their dynamic, but also it's a beautiful story at the same time, and a perfect retelling. So it kind of, instead of having her being carted off to the castle as Belle is, or Beauty is in the story, she is forced into a situation where if she wants to protect her friends and gain more information, she marries into the Nazi group as such. Question 6 is Tiny Tim, a book that you think deserves a lot more recognition or is underhyped. And of course I am going to go with Treachery of Spies by Amanda Scott, with so many spy novels out by John le Carré. I think he's just released a new one. And then you have all like Bourne books and Bond books and everything. Let's just have some female spies and female, you know, homicide detectives. It's a 2-part mystery. You have the modern time where they find a 90-year-old woman has been assassinated in the French Resistance style in a shopping mall car park. And so they go back and they look into her history, and then you go into her narration of when she was part of the Maquis and the resistance fighters in the local area. And what it turns out is, after all these years, they're trying to flush out the traitor who betrayed them back in 1945. It's fantastic. I highly recommend. It's a really decent read, but it keeps you so glued to your seat. You just don't want to give it up. It's so good. So please tell me if you have read this book, or if you want to read this book. The paperback version is now out. I recommend it to everyone who comes into the bookstore and wants a really fantastic read for Christmas. So I always find it sells wonderfully when you want a fantastic thriller crime. So question 7 is, today, why it's Christmas, sir? That is a book that always gets you in the mood for Christmas, apart from the Christmas Carol, of course, and for me, apart from The Night Before Christmas, and I think that was probably the main one we read as kids, like every Christmas. But mine's actually a romance. It's an romance. But what is really lovely about this is by Roan Parrish. It's called The Remaking of Corbin Whale. And it follows a young man who comes back to his local town where he's been living it up in New York. He's come out as gay in New York. He's kind of found himself. He's become a famous pastry chef. And then he realizes all at once that he's more devastated when he loses his job, when the restaurant he works at is bought by a corporation and they want him to make the same standard pastries all the time and not experiment. And he's more devastated by when his boyfriend breaks up with him. So he decides to move back to his hometown and open up and take over his parents' cafe, who his mum has been running by herself ever since the death of his father. And he decides to make it into this beautiful patisserie. So that is Christmassy in itself. It sounds very much like a Hallmark movie already. But what is lovely about this one is Corbin Whale, the titular character, as I should say. And he's a bit of the village oddball. He's been outcast a lot, and he had very eccentric aunties who grew up with, who raised him. His mother was really never there for him. So he's been quite ousted from society, and but he was always allowed to be in this cafe and draw and to spend the time. And of course Alex, who is the patisserie chef, he slowly falls in love with Corbin Whale, and it's just such a beautiful story. It is also, Alex is Jewish, so it's more based around Hanukkah, that time of year, but it is just a beautiful seasonal tale, and it just makes you so lovely because it's about two people who are finding who they are within their local community and finding each other. Question 8, The Muppet Christmas Carol, or what is your favourite movie adaptation of a book? And I'm going to cheat. I'm going to have 2 options, of course. Number 1, my favourite TV adaptation of a book is going to be the Colin Firth Pride and Prejudice with Jennifer Eel. That adaptation of Pride and Prejudice wins my heart every time. It is so close to the book. I love it. When I don't feel like rereading the book, I just go watch that, and it's beautiful. Although I'll probably read the book faster than I watch the movie. And for the movie that I love is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That has always been an absolute favourite of mine. I think they managed to adapt the series or the trilogy so well, and it's just so beautifully and brilliantly done. I'm not going to speak about The Hobbit, but the Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, is stunning. And question 9 is to tag some people. So because it's Christmas, I have been doing the wonderful Cloak and Dagger Christmas with 3 very beautiful people. And so I am going to tag my fellow hosts for Cloak and Dagger, Kate Howe, Carolyn and Mel. So I hope you all had a wonderful Vlogmas. Congratulations to everyone from getting to the end. Huzzah! And I will see you all next time. Merry Christmas, happy festive season, and I hope you have a wonderful time reading. Bye!